Hi, welcome back. In this video, I want to show you how we can view test results of the execution I demoed in my last video. Here inside of our log, we can see that the run ID that was generated for this run is 1495. Over here, you see that it's still saying that 1495 will be the next run ID generated, but that's only because the screen was not refreshed. I will be adding a feature where this number is generated automatically to the next ID after the run finishes. So let's now go to the page where we can view the results. Here you can see the list of all the runs. So at the very top, here we see our test run ID number 1495. And then also on the first row, all the way to the right, the last three columns, you can see the pass count, 1 test case passed, 2 test cases failed, and 1 test case was not executed. In another video, I'll explain the not executed count. So from this page, we want to navigate to the page that will show us the list of all the different test cases that were executed for this test run, along with the status of each test case. So I will copy the text 1495, and then I'll paste it into the Enter Test Run ID to Review edit field. Now, one of the new features I want to do is where I can just have 1495 a link, so I can just click on it and get to this page. So that's one of the enhancements I'll be working on. So in the future, I will create more videos showing these enhancements. So in this page, you see the list of test cases that were executed for this run and their test results. So you can see test run ID, they all match to 1495. We see the list of test cases for this run. You can see that 1 test case passed, 2 failed, and 1 was not executed, just as we saw in the previous page. So going back to this page, if I want to see the test steps in a particular test case, I have to go to the last column called ID. So every instance of a test case that was executed has its own unique ID. So right now it's not a link, so I have to copy the text or just type it in here. And now I can see that my test case passed, and I can see all the steps in it. All the steps are in green, meaning everything passed. But what if I want to see a test case that has failed steps? So let's go find a test case that failed. So let's go to this test case over here. Its ID is 17007. And we know that this test case is supposed to fail because I named it with the word fail in the test case name. Again, this is just for me so I can troubleshoot and debug my test cases and make sure that they're going to fail if there is a failure. So I rigged it so that this test case would fail on purpose. So let's take a look at the failed test case. Here, in addition to green text, you can also see red text. This color indicates that the test case failed. You can see the red banner, and you can also see here the test case result says the word fail. I have a certain style of writing out my test steps in the automation test results. In a later video, I will go into more detail on explaining how that works. But for now, in this video, I will keep it simple. So before I go into reviewing a test step that failed, I want to show you how a test step will look like when it passes. So let's look at step number 4. It passed. The step was to go to the last name text field and set it to Klimke 3. And it was set to Klimke 3. So this test step is comparing expected values to actual values for a specific field. That's how most of the verifications are done in my test steps. Now let's look at the failed test step. Now step number 5 failed not because the verification failed, but because the object was not even displayed on the screen, so the verification could not be done. Instead, the test had to exit out of its workflow. Failed test steps also have screen captures. The screenshot shows you exactly what the application looked like when the failure occurred. Let's take a look at the screenshot. Let me resize the window here so we can see the screen and the test step at the same time. So here you can see that there's a field called email. So it does exist, but in my test step, it's looking for a field called email_fail. So in my project for this object, the email text field, I created 2 objects in my code. One is the one that you see on the right hand side in the actual application itself called email, and another one called email_fail. The failed version in my code, I changed the properties when I created the object, so the properties do not match what the developer gave it. This will simulate a real test run where the object is missing because there is no email_fail object. Let's look at another type of report. Often, we would want to look at a report that shows only the failed steps for a test run. Instead of spending a lot of time opening a report for each test case and scrolling for failed steps, we can open up one report that shows only the failed test cases and only their failed test steps. To view this report, we start again at the List of Runs window. Let's view run ID 1495 again, which has 2 failed test cases. Instead of entering the run ID into the first text field, we enter it in the second one. Here's the report. In it, we see the names of the 2 test cases that failed. Under each one, we see the failed test steps and a link to the screenshot showing the failed state of the AUT. There are many good reasons for needing a report showing only the failed test steps for all the test cases executed in a single run. I will go over them in a future video. For these first set of videos, I want to concentrate on demonstrating the project's functionality. In the next video, I will explain how the database is being used in this project. Thank you.